Here's a few questions sent in by you, the viewers.
Bowled in.
David Gordon relates to the subject of the Doosra and the carom ball, and he says, just what proportion of these magic balls are legal? Well, it's impossible to answer that question. I'd say probably about half, given that the kink in the actions of bowlers like Saeed Ajmal and also Senanayake from Sri Lanka are quite pronounced. It's difficult though to tell whether the Doosras that they bowl are beyond the 15 degrees that you're allowed. This is 15 degrees here. I just measured it actually with a protractor, and it's not a great deal. That's at the amount of flex you're allowed in your elbow to bowl the ball down. And probably some of those Doosras are beyond that 15-degree limit that is allowed in the laws of the game. But in a way I don't mind actually, because their balls are only coming down at 50 miles an hour. It keeps the game interesting. The Doosra is a hell of a creation. It never mind, it incites uncertainty in the batsman, and it also takes lots of wickets, and it's kept off spinners in the game much longer than probably they would have been otherwise. So I don't mind a little bit of extension of that limit, but obviously there has to be a limit, there has to be some kind of law. It's a very hard one to measure though. You can't go out there with a protractor. This one's sent in by Chris Kellaway, and I think he's talking about medium pacers or fast bowlers rather than spinners. It's a tricky one, the yips, because it affects people in different ways and obviously to different extents. But I had a period in about the middle of my career when I started bowling a lot down the leg side. My hand was falling away, my wrist was floppy, and I was pushing the ball down the leg side. In fact, in one game I bowled a lot of wides down the leg side in quite a prominent match. And what I did was I actually bowled with the ball across the seam to try and negate any swing at all, and that gave me more confidence. I knew if I bowled the ball across the seam, it would go roughly in the direction I wanted it to. It wouldn't swing down the leg side wildly, and that way I had more control, and therefore the confidence came back. So I'd say people who are suffering from the yips and are sort of terrified to let go of the ball, perhaps because they think it's going to swing out of control, try bowling it across the seam and just bowl it properly. Don't go through the motions, but really bowl it with as much vigour as you can, and hopefully the control and the confidence will come back. Next question is from James Taylor. Who will be in the England team for the first test of this summer? That's a really interesting question. Lots of places up for grabs. I'd be inclined to start off with Joe Root opening the batting. That's where he was last summer against Australia, and he didn't put a foot wrong. He was undone a little bit by some good seam bowling, but there won't be so much of that with the Sri Lankans and Indians on tour. So I'd start with Joe Root unless the selectors want to go for Sam Robson. He is someone who's got real potential. He did very well in the winter for England Lions against the Sri Lankan A team, had a couple of centuries. Hasn't started quite so well this summer with a couple of failures against Sussex and Middlesex, but he definitely got the game to open the batting. He's got a good compact style, great concentration, very well organised, and he's got that hunger as well, which you get from those Australians, those guys born in Australia. He's from that New South Wales area. So I definitely look at him. We don't know yet whether he can raise his game to the real international class, but he's got the potential to do that if the selectors want to keep Joe Root down the order at number 4. I'd also be inclined to perhaps try Ravi Bopara lower down the order. He hasn't had much of a go in recent times, and I know he's had his failures as well, but I just like him. I think he's got something a bit different. Also, he's got that bowling ingredient which England have lost without Jonathan Trott. I wouldn't be bringing Trott back just at the moment, so I think Bopara maybe would shade Owen Morgan at the moment in the middle order. And bowling wise, well, Steve Finn started well with wickets. I'm not sure if his control is that good, but he's got so much potential, Steve Finn, that I would have him in the side as the strike bowler alongside Anderson and Broad, obviously. And then the spinner, Scott Borthwick, I like. He had a poorish first test in Sydney, but I think he's got something as well. He's got a little bit of unusual ingredient. He's a very good batsman, never mind his leg spin. I think he could develop a bit like a Steve Smith for Australia, given the chance. Thanks for your questions. Tweet me plenty more at Cricket Analyst, and I'll try and answer them every couple of weeks. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, clicking this button on the top right of your screen.